I'm your host, Donna Cates, and each week we'll dive into powerful stories, expert strategies, and practical tools to help you take charge of your financial future. Whether you're planning for retirement, navigating a divorce, or simply looking to build your wealth with confidence, this is your space to grow, learn, and thrive. Let's get started with today's podcast. Hello, everyone. I'm excited to introduce you today to Dr. Jennifer Jones Bryant. She is the owner of Reaching from Within and Empowerment Journey LLC. And Jennifer's going to share all about that business. And I am eager, Jennifer, to delve deep into your career journey now. So give us about a 90-second overview of what it is you do and why you got into it.
Okay, thank you so much, Donna, for having me today. So, Reaching from Within Empowerment Journey LLC, it deals with doing the transformational work inside out. And so, I work with mid career women who are wanting to make a change in their leadership journey, and I help them to overcome personal challenges and professional challenges so they can show up and succeed in whatever they're doing. And I do that through leadership coaching and mentoring.
Got it. And the audience or your ideal client is going to be that person that's kind of mid-level management and looking to do something different or just grow or figure out what it is that motivates them. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Absolutely. It's that woman who's saying, okay, I've been there for everyone else. Now it's my time to shine. Now it's my time to stand on business, as they said. It's her time to say, I understand the assignment and show up in those rooms boldly, authentically, with courage. And so I help them through their career transitions, challenges, and I also let them know that they're no longer living by default, like the stories and narratives that they've told themselves or others have told them, but they're living by design. So they get to strategically map out, what does it look like for me a year from now, 6 months from now, a year from now, 3 years from now. I help them roadmap that, and we work collectively together, and I personally design something for them. But I not only just work for the individuals, Donna, I also work with corporations as well, and helping their executives navigate through change, transition through change, because we got a lot of change going on right now. So I'm there to help folks navigate through that.
That's awesome. So I'm really curious to learn how you came into this work. How long have you been doing it, and what was that pivot for you to start focusing on this type of work?
So I will say that I have been mentoring for decades and coaching for decades. And I didn't become certified probably until maybe about 9 years ago, but I've been doing it for decades. I've led teams in the federal government. I rose from clerk typist to an executive, nearly 31 years of service, and retired over 6 years ago before the age of 50. And we'll talk about that. And then I actually went to work in the corporate sector as a chief of staff, focused on associate experience. And at the beginning, middle, and end of the day, my primary focus has been on people. And I've had my own personal challenges, albeit, losing loved ones who were close to me, my immediate family, caring for a mom who had bipolar schizophrenic,
Mm.
having a brother who was locked up when he was younger. He was incarcerated twice. So I had to care for my mom, and my bonus dad was there, but he had his own struggles as well. And so I felt like I was there helping everyone while trying to rise in the ranks, right, in my career. So it took someone to help me through my failures, through my mistakes, to help me along the journey. So I said, hey, 10 months ago, I said, I'm going full time. I'm betting on myself. I want to help others as well to help them. And so I've been in business over 7 years, but I collectively I'm trying to take all of the private and public sector experience that I have along with my small business to say, how can I help that next leader and have those private, intimate conversations that they may be fearful of having within their business or with someone that may be on their day job.
Got it. So a couple of things I have to share with you. I I also worked as a federal employee straight out of college, so I did that for a bit. But my mom literally started, I guess it was probably 1960-ish, as a clerk typist for the federal
Oh,
government.
wow.
Have that in common, but yeah, so it's a small world. But I would love for you to talk to us a little bit about what you see as problems in your industry and how you're working to solve that. And I know you're not focusing on a specific industry, but the work that you're doing, providing that executive coaching, leadership, mentoring, all of that. So just tell us about, what the problems are right now and what you're doing.
So I will say that the problem right now that I've seen, and Donna, I have to say, it's not really a right now problem. It's a persistent problem that's been there, perpetual problem, which is underrepresented women are not sitting at the table with peers. They're not represented as much as possible because as I've shared with you over my last 37 years of working private and in public sector, I was the only woman in most times sitting at the table and the only black woman sitting at the table. So there's extra levels and dimensions to this problem. And so it took sponsors and allies to help me along the way and speaking up and asking and saying, hey, I want to eventually get there. What did it take to get there? Right. And so a lot of times we get very focused on the technical pieces of our jobs of saying, I can do this and I can do that. But as you rise in your career, it becomes more about the influence that you bring to the table, the collaboration that you bring to the table. So the persistent problem, it's sad, but you can accomplish it. Is being able to be represented at that table.
Wow. And that's huge. And you probably realize this too. As a financial advisor, I'm in the minority as well. And
Yes.
just women in general. I think when I started working as an advisor over 25 years ago, we might have represented 7%. Now we're probably up to about 30%, but I'm afraid that includes support staff too, not the financial advisors, the ones doing the investment management and such. So it's a pervasive, things in a lot of industries for sure.
Yeah, and the percentage is much smaller because I'm reading a book now. The percentage is much smaller for Black women
I
in the
can
industry.
imagine. I can certainly imagine.
Yeah.
So I would love for you to share, what do you see being different, especially, and I don't want to get into politics, but
Oh, yeah.
we know what, things are being, you know, not funded like they have been in the past. So without getting, too
Yes.
into people's business, let's talk about any, where you see the industry going in spite of those current changes.
So I will say this, and because I had to do it, Donna, is that you have to find out where the opportunities are. Where is the money being placed? How are things getting funded? If it's not being funded at the federal level, then how does it look at the local and state levels? Find the opportunities that may be there. Work with, right now, lots of people need career transitions. How can you stand in the gap to help those individuals, particularly the underrepresented women, to help them strategically close the gap? Also, right now there's a lot of talk about AI. I had to pivot to get really focused and learn and immerse myself in AI. Am I an expert? Psh, far from it, right? But one thing in terms of my value, and I started this interview talking to you about, is that I'm people focused, like human focused. And so even in the AI world, I talk about you can't lose that human centric focus, regardless of the technology. And I've worked in a few technology organizations, and they hired me because of my leadership folks, my people centered focus. So I will say, Donna, truing back to your value system and where are the gaps, and do you need to pivot during this time to remain relevant, and being transparent and honest with integrity to say, hey, I'm trying to pivot too, and leverage the skills that you have. I'm certified in change management. Change management is something you can use in all industries, right? Regardless, that is something that's needed.
Oh, that's so interesting. So, and I'm curious because we both use the word pivot, and I know you've
Yes.
had some pivots in several areas of your life. But tell me, what's the biggest challenge that you've faced thus far in life, whether it's personal or professional, and how has it shaped the way that you're doing business today? What's making you you?
Yes, absolutely. And so, what I will say, one of many challenges, 'cause I would tell you throughout my lifetime, I always waited for the other shoe to drop, and I had to change my perspective about that, was the fact that when I got divorced over a decade ago, and it was super challenging, and I'm trying to oversee a team of maybe 70 plus people and a $1.02 billion budget and so on and so forth. And I'm going through my own personal challenges, Donna. I'm crying all the way to work and crying all the way home. And I'm like, compartmentalizing, trying to get it together while I'm at work. And I'm just like, I need a break. But I was, I had two daughters at the time, and 2 weeks and $2. I call it my
Mm.
2 by 2 by 2. And so I had to learn how to lean into my support systems at church and my friends, and to make it through to that next pay period. And I was like, I got to do something different. And what does different look like for me? Because what looks the same and what I'm used to, I can no longer do, because I was living by default. As I talked about earlier, I've been in the government 30 something years. What am I going to do? So I took advantage of leaving the government early. It was offered to me, and I took it. And that's what I needed to do in order to get financially sound. And in that process of me doing that, it was one of the best decisions I made, because I still had a lot of energy in me. And like I said, I went to the private sector, and I moved my money from federal government in my TSP over to a different company, a financial company, where I got a financial advisor. I was super, super grateful that I listened to someone earlier in my government career, and I start saving early on in my retirement. And so that part I was good. What I needed to do was try to figure out that day to day, right? So I was no longer in that living paycheck by paycheck. So I started living below my means, right? And then I got a budget, and I started saving more money, and I changed the way I looked at money, my relationship with money. I dug deeper. I went through classes through my church. I read a lot of books, and I said I wanted my life to be different, and that was the best thing I could have done. And then again, I was able to leverage the rule of 55, and retire from corporate. And now, like I said, I'm operating my business full time, but I'm doing it based on my terms, and I'm able to have more of work life integration. So I worked through those challenges. I know I summarized it pretty quickly and fast. But there were some huge challenges navigating through that. And my daughter saw me navigate through that. and remaining focused and being resilient and having my moments. And if I wanted to cry, I cried, and then I
Mhm.
picked myself back up and I got back out there and did what I needed to do.
There are so many things to unpack from what
I know.
right? So I hope our listeners are picking up on these things. I'm just going to summarize a
Yes.
few that pop out to me. Number one, doing the hard things and being vulnerable in front of your children. That's how they learn. So setting the example, showing them it's hard, but it can be done. The other thing, being tenacious enough to do the inner work. Most of us, like we know, oh, I've got this attitude about money or whatever, but we just go, it is what it is. But for you to go, ooh, maybe I need to learn a different way of thinking. And saying, I do a lot of manifesting, using positive affirmation
Yes,
and such.
so do I.
I came from the world is half empty. I mean, the glass is half empty, and
Yes.
it's I've got a bright personality and I'm successful, but that's where my head automatically would go for
Yes.
whatever reason. So that's we have to do the work to overcome those types of things. So kudos to you for seeing that and doing it. I just wanted to kind of elaborate on that because life gives us hard things. Divorce, death, taking care of our elderly parents, all the things while we're running our jobs. I mean, running our businesses and our households. It's hard.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you have to not be afraid of risk. So that was one of the biggest risks, which was stepping away from retiring from the federal government and entering to a world I had no idea about, but I knew what skill sets that I could transfer over into this corporate world. And I had an amazing support system because one of my former leaders in the federal government invited me to apply for a position in the private sector.
Oh, that's fabulous. And that's one other thing that I failed to mention that I really appreciate that you pointed out. And that's the fact that it's okay for us as women to reach out for support. You said I
Absolutely.
leaned into my support system.
I did.
We don't. I mean, generally we just like we take a back seat. So thank you for sharing that too.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Let me ask you, I'm going to shift the focus just a touch here. I would love for you to share with us if you could have lunch with one person, living or deceased, who would that be and why?
Oh my gosh. This is such a great question. Such a great question. And I will tell you, it would be Dr. Martin Luther King.
Okay,
It would be Dr. I'm gonna reach over for a little bit, Donna.
no problem.
And I'm reading his book, right? It's Dr. Martin Luther King, A Life by Jonathan Eig, EIG. Hopefully I pronounced that
Okay,
correct.
got it. Hmm.
And it it gives you insight into his life. And while he advocated for peace and he wasn't afraid of the challenges that faced him, he was a real person, right? And the way that this book is written, it talks about the human side of him. And sometimes I think we forget, as individuals, we are human and we have to give ourselves grace, right?
Hmm.
And so that is the reason why. And there's so many quotes that I use of his that has really um helped shape me. Um and then in the other side of it, I think we'd be quite surprised how the world hasn't changed that much.
Hmm.
And I would love to have a conversation with him about that. And I think he would celebrate the fact how women, right, women's rights, we won't go too deep in that, but there's been some transformations with that. but the fact how women are standing up for themselves boldly now, and they have seats at the table, and I would love to engage in those conversations as well. And then as children, the transformational impact that his children are making. So yeah, he would be my person.
And that would be a lovely lunch meeting. I would like to tag along with you on that.
Come on, come on, come on, Donna, come on.
We'll have an opportunity one day for sure.
Yes.
I would love for you to share with us how people can reach out to you, how to engage with you, and find out more about you.
Absolutely. People can engage with me on social media platforms. I'm under, they can find me as Dr. Jennifer Bryant, Jennifer Jones Bryant. My website is reachingwithinempowerment.com.
Okay, got it. Making a note of that. Awesome. Well, you've been a gracious guest, full of energy, and I love your passion. So thank you for
Thank
being with us
you.
today.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
I hope today's conversation left you feeling inspired, informed, and ready to take the next step in your financial journey. Remember, building wealth isn't just about money, it's also about creating a life that aligns with your goals and values. If you found this episode valuable, please subscribe, leave a review, and share it with the women in your life who deserve financial empowerment too. Until next time, stay confident, stay empowered, and keep building the life you desire.